Hello YouTube, Dave here again. It's been a long time since I did videos in my Through the Ages series on the Paladin class, and I really want to get back into doing that series. I had a lot of fun with it. It's always kind of cool to see the evolution of character classes through like the decades of time as new editions of different role-playing games sort of revise and revamp the concept. So today we are looking at the second edition Pathfinder playtest version of the Paladin. So this is the last Paizo class. Oh, let me actually open right to that. So this is actually the last version of the Paizo class that calls itself Paladin. So when the final rule set came out, their name would be changed, although I think Paladin was still a code that they could follow, which we'll find out when we do that video, which should be the one after this one. And this was the last version, I think, of the class that required specifically for you to be lawful good. So your code of conduct, you have to be lawful good and worship a deity that allowed lawful good clerics. So deities usually will allow followers that are within one step of their alignment. So a neutral good deity, for example, would probably allow a lawful good paladin, or a lawful neutral deity would also likely allow a lawful good paladin to sort of follow their code as well, or to be the sort of a champion of their cause as well. And then we do have the Paladin's Code here, so there are different tenets that they do have to follow. What's actually kind of interesting is that they do list them as sort of like a priority order. So you can break a tenet that's lower on the priority tables as long as it's keeping in line with like something that's higher up. So the example that they use here is that if like an evil, if an evil king asked you if innocent lawbreakers were hiding in a church so that he could execute them, you could lie to them because lying is not as bad. Like lying to this evil person is not as bad as turning over those innocent people, right? So that's kind of like the idea there, which is kind of cool, kind of neat to see. Their key ability here was listed as strength. They get 10 hit points plus their con modifier. They're trained in perception. They are an expert in fortitude and willed saving throws, and trained in reflex to start. They are trained in a number of skills equal to 4 plus their intelligence modifier, though there's not like a list that you choose from. I don't know if there's in Pathfinder 2nd Edition or not. I might be confusing it with D&D 5e. Again, I'm going to apologize for my allergies. It's been really bad lately. We just had another wildfire breakout not too far from where we live, so we're not getting hit directly with the smoke, but the air quality index is still not great, so I'm just going to apologize for that if I'm a little sniffly throughout this video. It stopped me from making videos the last couple of days, but I really want to get something out. They are trained in all simple and martial weapons, trained in all armors and shields, and their signature skills were athletics, crafting, diplomacy, and religion. So in the Pathfinder playtest, your skill training could only take you from untrained to expert unless it was in one of your signature skills. So for your signature skills, they could go all the way up to legendary, although truthfully the difference between legendary proficiency and not trained at all, like untrained proficiency, in the early days of the playtest were not very big. So even untrained things in the initial playtest would add your level to the skill checks, for example. And then if you were trained, it was 1 plus your level. If you were expert, it was 2 plus your level. Master was 3 plus your level, and then legendary was 4 plus your level. And I think the idea was that you could succeed in like standard skill rolls easily enough, but to actually take on some of the skill feats, you would have to have like those levels of different training. Now, in the final rules for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, if you're untrained, you add nothing to your skill rolls. And if you are trained, it's your level +2, or level +4, +6, or +8. So, and I think you have to be like 15th or 13th level or something like that to become legendary in something. So, like, that'd be like a difference of +21 from somebody that's untrained to somebody that finally reaches legendary. So it becomes a lot more important in the final playtest. So here we got the Paladin's Code of Conduct. So they must never willingly commit an act of evil. such as murder, torture, or casting an evil spell. You must not use actions that you know will harm an innocent, or through your inaction cause an innocent immediate harm when you knew your action could reasonably prevent it. This tenet doesn't force you to take action against possible harm to innocents or to sacrifice your life and potential to attempt to protect an innocent. So you won't necessarily, I guess you won't necessarily give up your own life for just an innocent person. But if you think you have a reasonable chance of being able to stop what's happening to them and, protect your own life as well, then you can sort of, I guess, do that. And that's sort of the takeaway that I'm getting from that. And I've played a few paladins where I wouldn't say that they were self-sacrificial, but if there was a situation where you were trying to get people to evacuate somewhere, I would be the last one to leave. So that's kind of like the approach that I would take to that. You must act with honor, never cheating, lying, or taking advantage of others. So again, you can forego this if you're maintaining this or this. And then you must respect lawful authority of the legitimate ruler or leadership in whichever land you may be in by following their laws unless they violate a higher tenet. So that is their sort of code of conduct. Paladins get a deific weapon. So if your deity's favorite weapon is uncommon, you do gain access to it. And if the weapon is simple, then you get to increase the damage die by 1 step when you wield it. So, like, if for whatever reason your deity's favorite weapon was a dagger, and you're a paladin of that god, you can wield a dagger that does a d6 instead of a d4. Or if it was normally do a d6, it would do a d8, and it would go all the way up to a d12. You'd also gain the Retributive Strike ability, so it's a reaction. And the trigger is a creature within your reach hits an ally or friendly creature. And then what you get to do is you get to make a melee strike against the opponent creature at a -2 penalty. That's interesting. Before the opponent rolls damage for the triggering hit. If your attack hits the target, it is enfeebled 1 for the remainder of the turn, or enfeebled 2 if you scored a critical hit. The enfeebled condition ends immediately if the creature makes a strike against the paladin. If Retributive Strike incapacitates or kills the triggering creature, the hit deals no damage. So it's interesting that they do the -2, because there's like retributive strikes and opportunistic strikes and stuff like that you can get in the full game. I have to take a look at the Retributive Strike and see how that's changed, because I don't think it conveys the penalty later, like in the full rules. So it's interesting that you have to take a -2. But you can also weaken the character, the creature, so that they do less damage. So enfeeble would be like if they were striking with melee, for example, they would do 1 or 2 less points because enfeebled affects your strength. Now the paladin also has access to champion powers. They start with the Lay on Hands ability, which they can use by spending 1 spell point. They also gain a spell point when they gain the Lay on Hands ability. However, unlike, again, the final rules, and I'll have to take a look at the champion abilities, again, because maybe they are different in the final rule set. But in this case, your maximum number of spell points is equal to your charisma modifier, where normally I think the maximum is 3. Now, I don't know I can't remember if this is just a playtest quirk, where they hadn't fully figured out the spell point system yet. But it is interesting to see that you can go above 3, but what's also interesting is that the paladin regains spell points when they prepare for each day. So they might get more than 3, but they only regain them at the start of each day, as opposed to being able to take the 10-minute focus action, which again might not even have been a part of the playtest. That's something I guess I'd have to look at some point in the future. I'm not going to go looking through it now, but it is interesting to see how their spell pool can be different than what we know from the final product. And how they regain them is also different. So you can also gain other champion powers that are usually gained through feats. So we'll see some of those a little bit later on. And again, whenever you gain a new champion power, you get to add 1 to your spell pool point as well. Your spell point pool as well. Level 2 and every 2 levels thereafter, they get to gain a skill feat. And then, for example, they also get general feats at level 3 and every 4 levels thereafter. At level 3 and every 2 levels after that, they get to increase a skill, so it go from untrained to trained, or trained to expert, or if it's a signature skill and you're at least level 7, you can go from expert to master. And then if you're 15th level in here, I think it's I don't know. I know that I'm running a game right now, and there's a 13th level rogue that has some legendary stuff, but it might just be the difference for the rogue class. But it says here for 15th level, then you can go to legendary. Ability score boosts at level 5, and every 5 levels thereafter, you get 4 boosts that you get to apply. So basically, 4 of your 6 attributes will get increases. If you are below 18 in an attribute, that boost adds +2. If you were at 18 or above, that boost only adds +1. So to go from 18 to 20 to get from +4 to +5 will take 2 separate instances of getting boosts. Then you get ancestry feats at level 5 and every 4 levels thereafter as well. Now we're going to roll back a little bit here. Those are just things that you that all classes get that I just kind of wanted to get out of the way here. But back at 3rd level, the Paladin gains a righteous ally. So your devotion to the cause of good attracts the attention of a holy spirit to aid you on your journey. This spirit can take many forms and granting you abilities and advantages. Once you've chosen the ally's form, it cannot be changed after that. So in older versions of like RPGs, this is around the time, although normally I think it's at level 4, but it's around the time that the Paladin would gain their special mount, which would be like the Steed ally. However, they do have the Blade and Shield ally as well that they can choose from. So for the Blade ally, a Spirit of Valor inhabits your weapon, granting it additional power. Select one weapon each morning, which is usually going to be your primary one. When you make daily preparations in your hands, so only in your hands, the weapon gains your choice of the disrupting, ghost touch, returning, or shifting properties, without it counting against the weapon's maximum number of properties that it can normally have, and you gain access to the weapon's critical specialization effect, which I think you don't normally get until like level 7 or level... weapon expertise. Actually, I don't even see weapon specialization on here, so that is interesting. Because I know in the final version, like every class gets weapon specialization at some point, but I'm not actually seeing it on here, so that's interesting. The Shield ally is a spirit of dedication that inhabits your shield, granting it additional benefits. In your hands, the shield increases its hardness by 2 and gains the ability to take 2 additional dents before becoming broken. This stacks with any extra dents the shield can normally take. Alright, so to explain that one, in the final version of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, when you block with the shield, your shield absorbs a number of points of damage equal to its hardness value. Then, after that, any remaining damage gets applied to both the shield and the shield bearer. So, basically, you and the shield will take whatever's left over. So if you were hit by 10 points of damage, your shield had a hardness of 5. You would absorb 5 by the shield, but then the shield and you would each take 5 points of damage. Shields would have a hit point total, and then they'd have what's called a broken threshold, or BT. And once you reach the broken threshold, you can no longer use it to absorb blows. Right? You can no longer use it for the shield block ability. So that's something that So that's kind of the way that it works now. In the original playtest, you would just have dents that your equipment could take. So I think normally it could take 2 dents before it was broken, and then 4 dents would be destroyed. And you would take a dent each time you used the shield block, and there was any damage left over. And then you would take, if it was a critical hit, it would be 2 dents. So you could eventually reach that broken threshold, or you would go beyond broken and destroyed. Whereas here, you could take an extra couple of hits. So it'll be interesting to see how that's changed, because they definitely did away with the dent system. By the time the final rules were done, for sure, but I want to say it was even before that, during the playtest as well. They were putting out new stuff for the playtest so frequently, and I was trying to keep up with it at first, but it just got to be completely overwhelming. I didn't have time to run the adventures to submit the feedback, and then there was all these like new updates and changes that you had to apply to everything, and I just eventually kind of gave up on that. All right, at level 5, they get weapon expertise, so select a specific weapon group. Your proficiency rank for the simple and martial weapons in that group increases to expert. At level 7, they get armored fortitude, so the proficiency for heavy armor and shields increases to expert, and their proficiency for fortitude saves goes up to master. While wearing heavy armor, when you succeed at a fortitude save, you treat your result as a critical success instead. At level 9, they get the Holy Smite. So your retributive strike surrounds evil targets in a righteous aura that punishes their transgressions. The target of the successful retributive strike takes persistent damage equal to your charisma modifier. So that's actually kind of cool. At level 11, you get the Aura of Justice. So when you use your retributive strike reaction, you can increase the penalty to -5. If you do so, whether or not your attack is a success, all allies within 10 feet of you who can reach the target can also spend a reaction to make a normal retributive strike against the target, although those attacks do not cause the target to become enfeebled. So that's kind of neat. So yeah, you increase the penalty, but even if you miss, you can just do the whole "get 'em boys" type of thing. So yeah, that's kind of neat. Level 13 armor mastery or heavy armor and shields goes up to increase to expert. Oh, sorry, no, it goes to the master, and then your proficiency for light and medium goes up to expert. You get to reduce the movement penalty due to heavy armor from 10 feet to 5 feet. I'm wondering if they still have an ability like that, because in the full rules, the final rules, each set of armor has a strength rating, and if your strength score or modifier, whatever it might be, is equal to or greater than the strength on the table, then you don't take the speed penalty. Or no, you don't take the armor check penalty, and you reduce the speed by 5 feet. So if it was, yeah. So I guess actually that stuff might still work, because instead of reducing by 10, if your strength is high enough, it's from 10 to 5, and then if you have this, then it goes from 5 to nothing. So that's actually pretty cool. Weapon mastery. Your proficiency rank in simple and martial weapons in your chosen weapon group increases to master. If your proficiency rank for all other simple and martial weapons increases to expert. Level 17, you become legendary in heavy armor and shields. And then your proficiency for medium armor and light armor goes to master. Reduce the penalty from armor check, or reduce the check penalty from armor and shields by 1. And then at level 19, you get Hero's Defiance. You gain the power to defy fate and continue fighting as long as you have divine energy. You gain the Hero's Defiance Champion Power, which you cast by spending 2 spell points, and you get to increase your spell point pool by 2. So yeah, that's, again, kind of interesting, because I don't think there's anything in the final rule set that I can recall. Now, I don't get to play as a player, so I'm not as familiar with a lot of these abilities as the players would be, because not very many enemy creatures get these focus spells in these scenarios that I run. But I can't think of too many things that require you to spend 2 of your spell points. So that's kind of interesting. Alright, let's take a look here at some of the Paladin feats at level 1, and then we'll move on to some of the other just notable things. Before we're going to check out that Hero's Defiance and at least Lay on Hands. But at level 1 for the Paladin feats, so a level 1 feat that they could choose is the Deity's Domain. So you can choose one of the domains associated with your deity, and then you can cast its initial spell, or its initiate spell, or whatever you want to call it, its initial domain power, as a champion power by spending a spell point, and you get to add another point to your pool. So that's kind of cool to see. You got the Hospice Knight. Your long hours in the hospice have taught you additional techniques for treating wounds. Your proficiency rank in medium increases to trained. And medicine is a signature skill for you. Okay. Increase healing from lay on hands from D4s to D6s. So that's actually kind of interesting. And also maybe a reason not to start with proficiency, because it doesn't say it increases it from trained to expert or anything. It just goes from untrained to trained. So that's kind of neat. And you get Warded Touch, so you cast Lay on Hands. You cast Lay on Hands in a simple motion without any complicated gestures. The somatic spellcasting action for Lay on Hands loses the Manipulate trait. So Manipulate is what provokes opportunity attacks, or I think there's attacks of opportunity or reactive strikes in the final version there. So to lose that Manipulate trait, is actually pretty cool. We'll take a look at a couple of their second level ones here as well. There's got some oaths here we'll take a look at. So we have the Divine Grace at level 2 feat. So you're triggered by a spell that allows a saving throw. You call upon your deity's grace to protect you from harm. You gain a +2 circumstance bonus to saving throw. And that looks like it is a reaction as well. Then we'll take a look at... We're not going to look at all the oaths. We'll take a look at the Dragon Oath, or Dragon Slayer Vengeful. So, you've sworn an oath to slay evil dragons. Add the following tenet to your Paladin's code. After all the other tenets, you must slay evil dragons you come across as long as you have a reasonable chance of success. When an evil dragon within your reach hits an ally or friendly creature and you use that action as trigger for your Retributive Strike, your Retributive Strike does not take the -2 penalty. Here we go. So there are ways to get around that. You don't ever consider evil dragons to be legitimate authorities, even in nations ruled by evil dragons. Okay, so that is interesting. It doesn't say anything about the -5 version of that, but that is still cool to see. And of course, there might be updated versions that do that as well. And we'll take a look at the Vengeful Oath. Just, again, I don't want to go through all of them, but the Vengeful Oath is you sworn an oath to hunt down the most heinous evildoers and bring them to celestial judgment, no matter where they hide. Add the following tenet to your Paladin's code. After all the others, you must hunt down and exterminate evil creatures that have committed heinous atrocities as long as you have a reasonable chance of success and you aren't engaged in a mission that would prevent you from doing so. You can use your lay on hands to damage an evil creature as if it were undead. In this case, it deals good damage instead of positive damage and gains the good trait. This doesn't prevent you from healing an evil creature with lay on hands, and you can't use it to determine the creature's alignment if you aren't sure. Okay. So that's kind of neat. That one does not get around the -2 penalty, but it is kind of neat to see the way that some of those work. At level 6, you can gain the Attack of Opportunity feat as well, so you can actually get your own different attacks of opportunity that don't necessarily require an ally to be struck first. You can also get the Litany Against Wrath, so this is an example of getting a champion power that you can gain by taking the feat, and then you get an extra point to add to your spell pool. And then it also looks like you've got some things that can upgrade your choice of Righteous Ally. So you got Blade of Justice. Level 6, your Righteous Weapon becomes a powerful tool against evil doers. Select one foe you can see, calling that enemy to face judgment until the start of your next turn. Your damage rolls with your Righteous Weapon against the foe gain a conditional bonus equal to the number of weapon damage dice. This damage applies only if the foe is evil. The bonus damage is considered good damage. Okay, so you can get what are called striking runes and things like that on your weapons that increase the amount of dice that you're rolling. So with the Blade of Justice, if you have striking on your weapon, then you get to add an extra couple of points of damage to the target. So again, that's kind of cool to see. And I don't want to go through too much of the stuff here. But and I don't see anything off the bat that looks like it augments the oaths that you take. So if you take the oath, you take the oath, and I think that's as far as they go. But that's still really, really cool to see nonetheless. 20th level ability. We'll just take a look here because I get the ones for the Righteous Ally. So we may as well look at all three. You get the Celestial Mount, so your steed gains incredible celestial powers. Granted by your deity, it gains dark vision resistance 10 to acid and cold. Additionally, it grows feathery wings, granting it a fly speed equal to its speed. Radiant Blade Master, your Righteous Ally is a paragon of the chosen weapon. When you choose the weapon for your battle's Righteous Ally during your daily preparations, add the following properties to the list of those you can choose from: Dancing, Greater Disruption, and Keen. And then the Shield Champion. If you have the Righteous Ally Shield, while wielding your chosen shield, it always counts as raised, even without using the raise in a shield action. If your shield would be destroyed, it vanishes to the Celestial Realms instead, where your Righteous Allies repair it. During your next daily preparations, the shield returns to you, fully repaired. So that's pretty cool. Alright, so now we're going to take a quick look at the spell section here. And I will say that the spells were not laid out particularly well in the playtest. Because the ones that are have the spell, they're considered focus spells, are mixed in with all like the regular ones. They're just considered powers instead of spells. But what was the what was that? What was that one I wanted to take a look at? There was the Paladin one. Dang it. Darkened Eyes, Dazzling Flash. Okay, I just gotta take a quick look back at the... That's how good my memory is, everybody. I even looked it up twice. Okay, there's the Ranger, so there's our Paladin. Retributive Strike. Hero's Defiance. There we go. Hero's Defiance. Okay. So it's considered 10th level power. Wow. Okay. Oh, yeah, but that's different than the spell levels, because anyway. All right, so here... Oh, no, it's not. It's not, because, yeah, you're, like, level 20 or 19 when you gain it. So, no, that's right. Yeah, this is considered, like, a 10th level ability. It is... casting is just a verbal casting. And it is a reaction, it looks like, or free action. So an attack would bring you to 0 hit points. And the attack isn't Disintegrate. And it doesn't have the Death trait. You shout a defiance at your fate just before applying the attack's damage. You recover hit points equal to 19d4 plus your spellcasting modifier. This is enough to prevent the attack from bringing you to 0 hit points. You don't become unconscious or dying. Either way, you can't use Hero's Defiance for another minute. And then we got Lay on Hands to take a quick look at. I guess we'll take a look at... was it Litany Against Wrath? Yeah, level 3. Power level 3, so you'd be level 6 when you gain this. Casting is 1 action, verbal casting. And it says, Litany, their litany rails against the sin of wrath, punishing the target for attacking good creatures, depending on its reflex save. Particularly wrathful creatures, such as a Vrock, treats the outcome of a saving throw as 1 degree success worse. And the target is bolstered against your litanies. So success the first time the target spends an action or performs an activity that damages at least 1 good creature takes 3d6 damage. If it gets a critical success on the save, then nothing happens. On a failure, each time the target spends an action or takes... each time the target spends... So I think this one is just the first time, okay. So each time it takes an action or performs an activity that damages at least 1 good creature, it would take 3d6, and then if you get a critical failure on that their save on the litany, the target is weakened 1, and each time the target spends an action or performs an activity, they take 3d6 good damage, and then for every spell level that goes above, so this is power 3, so at level that was level 5, so at level 7, for example, the damage would go up by 1d6, so it would be 46 instead of that. So, interesting. And then actually Lay on Hands should be right here. Here we go. So, Lay on Hands, level 1 power. Your hands become infused with positive energy as you lay them on the target, healing a living creature or damaging an undead target. If you use Lay on Hand on a willing living creature, you restore hit points equal to 1d4 plus your spell casting modifier. And if the target is an ally, he gains +1 conditional bonus to armor class for 1 round. Against an undead target, you deal the same amount of damage. And if you succeed on a melee touch attack, and the creature takes a -1 circumstance penalty to armor class. Okay. And then for each spell level that it would be above level 1, the amount of healing or damage decreases by 2d4. Okay. Interesting that it starts at 1 and then increases by 2, but again, that's fine. I prefer more healing than less. Yeah, so there you go. That was the look at the Paladin class for the Pathfinder role-playing game. Again, we didn't go through every single feat or every single spell ability that they can get. We didn't really look at the deity stuff or anything like that, but we can take a look at that when we get to the cleric videos. But yeah, this is the last time that the class will be called Paladin when we take a look at the Paizo product. So in the next video in this series, we'll be taking a look at the Pathfinder 2nd Edition full rules, or the final rule set with the core rulebook, and we'll be taking a look not at the Paladin class, but the champion. Although I think Paladin's still one of the code of conducts that you can take. So we'll take a look and see how that sort of changes from the playtest to the final rules. Again, I just want to apologize to everybody that's been watching this video. Just my allergies have been absolutely brutal. There's been a couple of times where I've had to actually pause the video just to, just sneeze or blow my nose. It's been really, really rough the last month and a half. Really, it's been absolutely brutal as far as allergies are concerned. So I do want to apologize for that. I appreciate you sticking it out with me, and it's nice to be back doing these through the ages. Overall, I actually really do like this Paladin version. I like the fact that the tenants actually have sort of like a ranking and priority system. So that's actually kind of neat. So you can, if you need to, you can lie to protect people now, and it not be against like the Paladin code. But you can't just lie for the sake of it, right? Like it actually has to be in service of one of your other more higher ranked things. The spell points going beyond the 3 that they normally are in at least the finalized rules is interesting, to say the least. And the fact that they don't have the refocus action also seems to be very different from the final rule set. So we'll take a look and see how the Paladin spell points and their focus spells and all that are handled in the final rules. But this is a pretty cool class. I mean, I like the fact that they actually get abilities that are like higher level, that aren't just like the increases to ability scores or skills or the general feats or stuff like that. Now, I think that they still get sort of these improvements in the finalized rules. It's just they'd all be included in the one entry, right? So Retributive Strike might have all the information, so like what it starts at, what happens when you reach level 9, what happens when you reach level 11, sort of like that. So I think it just sort of incorporates everything together. But yeah, it's still really cool to see the Hero's Defiance is pretty cool. Being able to heal 19 d4 points of damage just as you're getting struck to prevent you from going down is a pretty cool ability. Interesting that it costs you 2 spell points to cast, but I guess that's just the name of the game at this point. And I do like the Righteous Allies being not just the mount, but actually being able to be your equipment as well is really, really cool. So yeah, I like this version of the Paladin class quite a bit, and we'll see how things change between the playtest and the finalized retail version of the Pathfinder 2nd Edition core rules, before we take a look at the remastered version of the champion, or the Paladin champion class. And then we also have the D&D 2024 version of the Paladin to take a look at. So this isn't the last Paladin overall, it's just the last time a Paizo product will have it listed as the class name being Paladin. So anyway, thank you all so much for your time. I truly appreciate it, and we will see you in the next one. Until then, take care.